I'm going to use fighting games to teach you math. Everybody shut up. So more characters in a fighting game isn't always a good thing. In fact, it's very hard to balance characters in a fighting game. More hard than you think. Let's think of a fighting game with only one character. There's only one interaction that needs to be balanced, the mirror match. And you'd think by definition that's balanced, but sometimes characters have weird interactions when facing themselves, so that's still something the developers have to take into account. Now, increase the roster size by just one character. There is the possible interaction between character 1 and character 2, and the mirror matches of both character 1 and both character 2, so 3 interactions that you have to balance for. Add one more character. Now there's the interactions of character 1 and 2, character 2 and 3, character 1 and 3, and all 3 mirror matches. Now, this amount of interactions that you have to deal with in any fighting game roster can be determined mathematically. Excuse my horrible handwriting, but this is it. You have n times n minus 1 divided by 2, that's the formula for n choose 2. That governs all possible matchups in the game. And then plus n, the size of the roster. That's all the mirror matches in the game. So if Melee has 5 viable characters, that's 5 times 4 divided by 2, which is 10, plus 5, which is 15. 15 perfectly balanced interactions. Now, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has 89 fighters. Really, when you add Pokemon Trainer and Pyramithra into that, it's 92 fighters. And if we plug that into our equation, that is 4,278 unique character interactions that have to be balanced. And here's the reality. They aren't. The dev team has no way of balancing that many interactions. There's no way they could dissect all the nuance of all those matchups and make sure that they are operating on an equal playing field. So Super Smash Bros. Ultimate isn't necessarily a game that is more well-made or more well-balanced. It just obscures its matchup knowledge with noise. There's a heavy amount of data noise that hasn't yet been sorted out because there are all these matchups that have to be considered. And so it's hard to get a definitive ruling on whether or not a character is viable because all their possible matchups are really hard to shake out, especially when comparing them to the thousands of other matchups in the game. Meanwhile, Melee has 351 possible matchups, a literal order of magnitude lower than Ultimate. And 2 decades is definitely long enough to consider all those matchups and weigh them against each other. So there is very little data noise there. It's clear which characters are viable. It's not clear in Ultimate, but that doesn't make it a more balanced game. That doesn't mean more characters are viable. It just means it's harder to know. And maybe that's a good marketing strategy. But at that point, you might as well also play Mugen. Because you add 1,000 characters to a roster, and you will never get all those matchups balanced in an actual person's lifetime. So no one will ever know.